Hello and welcome to this special report on Arcn TV Mabuchi Abuja. I am Hilda Homsem Fantwam. Today, our focus is on the Gender and Youth Department of Arcn, which had an inter-house interactive discussion on gender concepts and their integration in the implementation of the Arcn gender policy. Let's listen. The program started with the national anthem, followed by a welcome address by the Director, Gender and Youth Department, Dr. Chukwumelumi Rufina, who stressed the need for the policy to be domesticated in the council and strictly implemented.
It's my pleasure today to welcome each and every one of you to this very occasion. The event is overdue because we unveiled this policy last year, June 15 to be precise, and today this is just to kickstart the domestication and popularization of this gender policy, which we have planned to commemorate the International Women's Day celebration this year that has the theme Inspire Inclusion. Unfortunately for us, we have a gender policy that is also a framework for gender inclusiveness. So the time has come for us to begin to walk the talk. And we cannot just do that without involving the decision makers. And that is why we deem it fit to have the ES and his team to be here, because we need the buy-in for us to move forward with this gender implementation. The gender policy, we know that it's not always the issue has always been on implementation, not just development of the policy. And this has to do with awareness. So if the policy is not being popularized, people don't know about it. Moreover, this is just the second of the policy, not the first one. This is the review of the first one. I don't know how many people were aware of the first one. That's why we need to domesticate it, whereby the NARIs, the FCAs, even here, they have to adapt it to their own unique mandates and to make it popular, not just for the shelf. It has to be implemented. And we also know that we need the buy-in of the CEOs and the management staff to implement this. It's not for decoration. So we talk about the budgetary allocation right now. We need to still discuss with ES. For the policy to be implemented, it has to be funded. And then we don't want a situation whereby there will be policy somersault. We need to have it kickstart the implementation taken down to the NARIs and the FCAs. So in view of that, we have just initiated this to unbundle it for us to begin to understand what actually is this policy, who are those responsible for the implementation, and how can we move it forward. Thank you for that. I once again say welcome for today's occasion.
Arcn Executive Secretary Professor Garba Hamidu Shaributu stressed the role of women, stressing the need that women were more emotional because their animals were dying, and called for help rather than their counterparts who were just ready to consume the meat during the outbreak of anthrax. Professor Shaributu advised that the women folk should be considered in everything related to the development. He said the Arcn is constructing new buildings to cover all the departments. He said the gender will play a vital role to open doors for more researchers and distribute to the world what they have in the council, and to be able to represent all the institutes and colleges to show what they have. He said the Gender and Youth Department is great and should be encouraged as he declared the program open.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, honestly, I stand here on a very, very sad note on this occasion. Sad because when I joined the council, I met a very powerful lady, a very religious lady. Yes, she can be erratic at times, but she remained very, very focused on gender issues. I want to remember quite seriously Mrs. Bola Makanjola of blessed memory, who was the head of gender when I joined the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. I think we should pray within our minds for the repose of our soul and the repose of the soul of all other of our colleagues that we lost them. Amen. This unit is an important unit because it's dealing with a subject matter that borders on gender and youth development. Oftentimes, I used to wonder why we bring in gender and youth and put them as a single unit. But the answer is not far-fetched because of the important role that our mothers play in shaping human, in shaping the society. Wherever you find yourself, at any time, when the subject matter of women comes into being, a right-thinking person must be touched. Touched in the sense that the women folk have contributed quite enormously to the development, first of the family, in the society at large. I therefore wish to declare this seminar open. Thank you.
A presentation on the topic Gender Concepts with respect to agricultural research and innovation aimed at adding knowledge and the need to domesticate it within the council followed.
Gender concepts with respect to agricultural research and innovation. And which I've already mentioned at the welcome address that is to commemorate our, whenever we are talking about gender, it's not about women. Like yes, I already said. When we talk about gender, let us not have the mindset that it's about women. We are trying to address the ratio of beneficiaries, the opportunities of either male to female. It could be either way, maybe the male advantage and the women be disadvantaged, or the other way, or even boys or girls. So we're looking at gender on the roles, the responsibilities, the opportunities and the benefits. So looking at these gender roles, what is it trying to say? Find that women are mostly in the productive, reproductive, and in the community management, where the men are mostly in the political and community management, where decisions are being taken. So the disadvantage there is that the women are not always heard when decisions are being taken. So these are the things that, so when you talk about gender bias, you are talking about somebody being discriminatory because of somebody's gender. You may see somebody is a male or a female, you have the bias, you have the, you give out unequal treatment or fair treatment because of that gender. You're already a gender biased person. And the gender stereotype is talking about or a preconceived idea of how this person should behave because of the certain, because it is of a particular gender, or being gender blind. You don't even consider gender in your, Mark, you are this is being reflecting or being reflected in our agricultural sector. We are not talking about the other sector. We are focusing in agricultural practices, in our projects, in our programs, what we do, how gender sensitive are we. The gender analysis is to have in-depth analysis of the needs, of the challenges, constraints, who benefits. Is it stereotyped as when you say that it's a particular gender is higher superior to the other? No gender is superior, but in gender stereotype, you are pitching yourself with a particular gender being superior to the other gender. The gender gap, when you conduct gender analysis, it gives you idea of the gap that exists between the gender, male or female gender. And the mainstreaming of gender is just the process by which you now achieve gender equality, because the ultimate goal is to achieve gender equality. And gender equality is not about counting 5 female, 5 male. That's not gender equality. It's in terms of the opportunities, the benefits, the decision-making, power sharing. How is it done? In Nigeria, we are still talking about 35%, but for us to get to that desired goal is to have equal participation and representation. That's what the gender equality is talking about. So being gender sensitive, responsive, or transformative, the ultimate is to be transformative. That's where you now bypass the norms, and now you have to make sure that gender equality is in place. And the project, program, or whatever activity that you are doing, you have to be considering the gender and consider it in the involvement and also at decision making, at the whole life cycle, not at maybe at the beginning you consider women. In time of decision making, you don't involve them.
A panel of discussion by some directors on related issues highlighted gender role, the stereotypes, challenges, advantages, and disadvantages in the society.
I want to give a brief definition of what is gender stereotype. And according to High Commissioner for Human Rights, it states that it's a view or preconception about attributes or characteristics that are or ought to be possessed by women and men, or the roles that are or should be performed by men and women. So you can see that is the general, meaning that the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights gave concerning gender stereotype. And we observe that gender stereotype in livestock farming is common and have negative impact on livestock production and productivity. Livestock production systems in developing countries, Africa in particular, include nomadism. These are some of the examples of farming system that we have. We have the ranching system, we have the intensive system, and we also have the mixed livestock and crop farming systems, among others. These are, ways where or in which Africans in general, partake in raising, or the systems they use in raising livestock. And we observe that, this is very critical, because in Africa, our system is such that, because of lack of funds maybe to develop a well-managed farm, for example, what is obtainable in ranching, and so on and so forth. So you find out that people practice more of, you graze your animals, and then maybe later on give them supplement, in order to enhance the nutrition of those animals. So you find out that there is a lot of grazing activities taking place, and there is also a lot of maybe fodder, development of fodder for the livestock to graze on it. Now, let me share some experiences that we have, gender stereotypes that we have in African nations. For example, in Kilwa Masoko, is a district south of Tanzania. You know, men are responsible for goats and cattle production, while women are responsible for chicken and ducks, DUCK. You know, so you can see they have already, you know, apportioned which animals, you know, men should rear and which animals the women should rear. Then similarly in Bukoba, men are responsible for livestock production in general, including stall feeding, milking, taking them out, and feeding the cows. Whereas women's role include cleaning the shed, spreading manure on farms, and looking after the cows. You know, now this stereotype showed clearly that women are barred from livestock ownership and thus wealth creation. You can see here there is no ownership. Women are not allowed even to own the animals, but they are allowed to participate, you know, in feeding the animals for the men. So you can see how the men are being segregated.
My topic is how to achieve gender-based agricultural communication of our research findings. I think before we go into how to achieve that, we need to ask ourselves also a question. When do we think, or when do we say that gender-based agricultural communication of research findings is achieved? When? It is when people, irrespective of their gender, have equal access to agricultural research findings, equal access, understanding, and utilization or adoption of these agricultural findings, and contribute to societal development through increased productivity, poverty alleviation, income generation, and food and nutrition security. That is when we said, yes, agricultural, gender-based agricultural communication of research findings are achieved. Then coming to the main issue, how achieving gender-based agricultural communication of research findings involves strategizing or developing a strategy, communication strategy that will dwell or engage, reach and engage a very diverse audience, considering their needs and their roles as men, women and youth in agricultural and rural communities. To develop those strategies, we are going to look at briefly, because of time, about 10 steps to have a tailor-made communication strategies for you to achieve gender-based agricultural communication of your research innovations. Number one, understand your audience. You need to understand your audience. You need to make an audience analysis to know their demographics, their socio-economic status, their literacy level. You need to know for you to develop a message that can resonate both men, women, and youth.
Whatever you don't understand or you don't know, abuse is inevitable. And so if we say integrating gender, integration means just inclusivity. Include everybody. And gender, like we said, has to do with culture and social attributes of either man or woman or boy or girl. If you are coming from that angle then, what is agricultural research? We will assume that we all know it. After all, we are part of the system. Because at each point, you now investigate for the purpose of some other things. You want to investigate. You want to try to improve either productivity or quality of animals or crops through their genetic modification or improvement. It's an aspect of agri-research. Then there is a component of that research too that has to do with protection, because you have to protect those animals or plants. You have to do research. It's part of agri-research. Then there is a component that has to do with marketing. Marketing and efficient use of either inputs or resources. Then there is an aspect that we all know because it's part of us, storage. We even have an institute for storage. If developing efficient storage system, if you do research along that line, this put together gives you what we do in agri-research. Then what has it got to do with now gender integration? Because for you to integrate gender, you have to know the activities involved in that subject matter. And that's where you have gender, either activity disaggregation or gender disaggregation, to help you know at what point do you need, maybe how many people, how many men or women or boys and girls are involved in this. That helps you to now mainstream or integrate, as the case may be. And that is the role that they've asked us to do as a department in this city.
Now, you see, generating gender-based data involves a deliberate effort. Whether we like it or not, it involves a deliberate effort to collect information that is disaggregated by gender, allowing for a refined understanding of men and women, experiences and interaction with various aspects and particular issues and sectors. And when you want to do this, there are ways you go about it. The first, because I will also list them in itemization format, the first way we can get this is designing a gender-sensitive survey and questionnaire. Now, what do we mean by this? If you are designing gender-sensitive survey and questionnaire, one, you have to develop a survey and a questionnaire that includes specific questions related to gender roles, responsibility, access to resources, decision-making power, and participation in different activities, ensuring the questionnaire are framed. The questionnaire are framed in a way that allows meaningful comparison between men and women. That is one way we can generate data. The second way we can as well also generate data is conducting a focus group discussion and interview. Now, what do we mean by this? When you get to an environment and you are organizing a focus group discussion or interview to an individuals, at that moment you should be able to look at how this focus group discussion could direct you asking both men and women in different formats. And when you are asking them, your questions should as well also include the issue of access to resources, constraints they are facing, and some other issues. Then with that, you should be able to put together and get certain information you require. Now, number three is utilizing participatory rural appraisal. Now, basically when we talk about farmers, we are also looking at majorly rural areas. So we are not talking of mechanized farms and big farmers. We are talking about smallholder farmers here. We should be able to do rural appraisal, participatory rural appraisal. Now, in this participatory rural appraisal, you approach, you do community mapping. You do community mapping, you do seasonal calendars, and then you as well also look at resource mapping to engage men and women in identifying and analyzing gender-related issues in their community, gender-related issues in their community. And this method facilitates dialogues and empower community members to actually and actively contribute to data generation.
The role of men and women in fishery aquaculture. In my sector, predominantly women are involved in small-scale fisheries production, small scale, they are mostly smallholder farmers. And they involve in menial things, small things that do not require resources, like pre-harvest activities, such as mending or even preparing the gears. They are also involved in post-harvest activities, such as preparing the fish, processing the fish, and even selling. So their contribution is often informal and rarely remunerated. So the role of men actually centers on industrial production, that's large-scale production, capturing fish in coastal and deep sea waters where women cannot access. And then this also involves high occupational health and safety risk. So with this, we can see that there's gender disparity in my sector. The women are not earning as much as men because they are, they don't have enough resources to go, or strength or whatever, to do what men can do. So gender disparity exists in fisheries and aquaculture. And the issues are women and girls, constitute half of the workforce in fisheries and aquaculture throughout the value chain, but they earn less income. Women often face greater barriers than men to accessing fisheries and aquaculture information, services, even facilities, infrastructure, input, so many things. There's a great barrier, against women. And because of that, they face greater risk of unintended pregnancy, sexually transmitted infections, HIV, cervical cancer, malnutrition, among others.
And that's our special report on gender concept and integration of the Arcn gender policy. I am Hilda Homself Phantom, thanking you for watching and happy Women's Day celebration. Bye from all of us.